Today we are going to watch The Wrecking Crew. It was the day of Chinese New Year. Chinatown in the US state of Hawaii was decked out with lights. The streets were buzzing with the rhythm of drums and instruments, and everything was quite lively. But right at this moment, a white man was walking very fast through the crowd. He was repeatedly looking this way and that, and was clearly very nervous. After a while, he secretly slipped something into a mailbox, but in the very next moment, a blue van knocked him down on the street, and the van fled without stopping. On the other hand, Navy SEAL Lieutenant Colonel James, who was training newly recruited members on their underwater capabilities, soon received a piece of news. His father, Walter, had died yesterday in a hit-and-run accident. Standing in front of his father's corpse, James's state of mind was quite complex because his father had done such heinous things in the past that the father-son relationship had become almost like that of strangers. Returning home, James broke the news to his wife as lightly as possible. His wife realized that her husband didn't want to talk much about this, so she changed the topic and brought up James's half-brother, Johnny. Although Johnny's identity was a bit embarrassing, it was their father's death after all, so he should at least be given the news. But James argued back, saying Johnny doesn't answer his phone, and from what he knows of Johnny's troublesome nature, Johnny is probably stuck in some even bigger trouble right now. James's guess was not wrong. The scene shifts to the state of Oklahoma. As Detective Johnny returned home riding his stylish motorcycle, he saw his girlfriend fuming with rage while packing her luggage, as if she was preparing to leave for good. Seeing the situation, Johnny tried to explain that he loves her very much, but the girlfriend laughed scornfully and said that he doesn't even know today is her birthday, so with what face does he speak of love? The girlfriend had become fed up with Johnny's irresponsible behavior, so without waiting for any explanation from Johnny, she started the car and drove away from there in style. After his girlfriend left, Johnny sat alone in the room. Just then, James's wife called him to give the news of their father's accident and said that she wanted to see Johnny there at the funeral tomorrow. But Johnny's feelings toward his father were also extremely complex. After leaving Hawaii following that incident, he hadn't returned in the last 20 years and hadn't had any contact with James for 10 years, so Johnny wasn't planning on going to his father's funeral. But in the very next moment, two strangers cornered Johnny in the bathroom and demanded the return of the parcel sent by his father. Johnny was surprised to hear this because he had no communication with his father, so why would his father send him a parcel? When Johnny refused to understand, the men showed their tattoos. These tattoos were the mark of the Japanese Yakuza gang. The smaller brother told Johnny to understand the situation, but he couldn't have imagined that Johnny wouldn't give a damn about their threats. Then a fierce fight broke out between the two sides within that narrow room. Later, as more men joined, a total of 3 Japanese gangsters attacked Johnny, but even with 3 of them trying, they couldn't defeat him. In the midst of this, one of them, not understanding the situation, intentionally broke a keepsake kept by Johnny's mother. This made Johnny furiously angry. He screamed, threw the man down, and rubbed a cheese grater on his face. Then Johnny quickly took down the other 2. However, he realized that the incident didn't end here. It seemed he would have to return to Hawaii this time. The next day, at Walter's funeral ceremony, James looked back and saw several suspicious men standing there who were likely gang members. Before he could finish his thought, the vagabond-natured Johnny arrived there. Seeing Johnny ruined James's mood, but since his wife had specifically sent for him, he couldn't just turn his face away and leave. The two brothers met again after many years, but that old bitterness and war of words remained between them. When the sound of their arguing increased, the old man conducting the funeral scolded them in annoyance, causing them to fall silent. Then, Governor Maho, who was a close friend of Walter, delivered a condolence message. After the message, Walter's ashes were buried according to local custom, and the funeral was completed. Afterward, Johnny came with James to their old house filled with memories. Seeing the house full of childhood memories, Johnny couldn't control himself and reminded James of those old words when James used to call him a bastard child. Actually, Johnny was the child of Walter's extramarital affair, and this was the root cause of the conflict between the two brothers. Previously, whenever James saw Johnny, he would remember his father's betrayal, so his behavior toward Johnny was never good. That is why their relationship is in this state today. But at the dining table, a statement by Johnny silenced everyone. He said he had returned today mainly to find his father's killer. Hearing this, James immediately moved the children away from there because he didn't want to argue in front of the family. James called Johnny outside to talk. James didn't believe Johnny. He thought their father died in a simple road accident, and the idea of murder or conspiracy was just Johnny's imagination. When Johnny saw that James didn't believe him at all, he didn't want to talk any further. Saying some harsh words, he left the place. At night, Johnny went to a nightclub and drank alcohol. There, a beautiful woman made him a proposal, but Johnny politely declined it. Then, a huge man came to Johnny and said that he shouldn't have returned to Hawaii. After finishing his drink, Johnny's head started spinning. Someone had spiked his glass. When Johnny regained consciousness, he saw he was in Mr. White's lair. Actually, in the past, Johnny thought that Mr. White's gang had killed his mother, so he had injured many of Mr. White's men. After that, the gang had kicked Johnny out of Hawaii, although he wasn't given a condition never to return forever. However, since Johnny came for his father's funeral this time, Mr. White was forgiving him just for once. But Johnny must leave Hawaii after 7 days, or else he would have to face the consequences. To warn him, a small cut was made on Johnny's body. Then the gang members left Johnny on the beach. On the other hand, James went to the local police station to meet the detective in charge of his father's case and wanted to see the police report. The detective informed him that his father was hit in Kalihi, but there were no witnesses or CCTV footage there, so there was no useful information in the report. James realized there was something fishy going on. He then wanted to see his father's personal belongings, but the detective warned James through his gestures not to dig too much into this, otherwise he would end up in trouble with people who are hard to deal with. James's face became serious. He told the detective, "You don't know me properly. I'm the guy who is hard to deal with." Leaving the station, James found an address from a food delivery slip found among his father's things. Meanwhile, Johnny reached his father's detective office before James. While rummaging through drawers, he suddenly found a pistol. Just then, there was the sound of the door unlocking. Johnny quickly hid. He saw a bald man enter the room and search for something. Seeing Johnny, the man tried to run away and jumped down to the first floor, mocking Johnny as he went. Johnny got angry and chased him. Johnny attacked in Bruce Lee style, and the bald man tried to escape in Jackie Chan style. The fight was roughly equal. Upon interrogation, the bald man admitted his name was Pika. He was Johnny's father Walter's assistant. He mainly did minor jobs like hacking emails or wiretapping phones. The last job Walter gave him was to infiltrate a high-end catering company as a waiter. But before Pika could know what to do after getting in, Walter died on the street. Hearing everything, Johnny ordered Pika to work for him. On the other hand, James went to the accident scene and saw a CCTV camera from a shop on the side of the road pointed exactly at the spot. James went there and requested to see the footage for a few $100s, although they were reluctant at first. Meanwhile, as Johnny and Pika were talking, Johnny suddenly noticed something wrong with the fin of a surfboard on the wall. While trying to fix it, he saw a paper come out from inside the board. Johnny opened it and saw it was a map with a government seal on it. He immediately phoned his cousin, who works as the governor's assistant, and informed him of the matter. Since Walter had hidden the design, there must be some secret mystery behind it, perhaps linked to his death. The cousin told Johnny to send the document number of the design and said he would check the database when returning to the office. Shortly after hanging up, James arrived at that location using the address from the delivery slip. Luckily, the two brothers recognized each other, otherwise shots could have been fired. James shared the information he found and took out a USB drive from his pocket to show, which contained the CCTV footage of their father's accident. The video clearly showed that it was no ordinary accident. The blue van had hit their father with the intention to kill. Since the car had no number plate, it was not possible to find the car immediately. As the two brothers were returning, the Japanese gang suddenly attacked them. They rammed with their car and started shooting, clearly wanting to kill the two brothers. The brothers looked for an opportunity to counterattack, but saw the enemy car was bulletproof. Seeing the situation was dire, Johnny opened the car door, jumped out, and started exchanging fire with the enemies. But due to the enemy's superior firepower, Johnny was forced to retreat. As the enemies took control of James's car, James somehow managed to get out of the driver's seat. In this critical moment, Johnny told James to jump from the car and shot at the enemy car, causing an explosion. This averted the crisis for the time being, but James felt very bad because his beloved car was blown up along with it. Soon, Johnny and James went to the police station to cooperate with the investigation. The detective was on the verge of going mad with anger because one of them was a suspended police officer from another state and the other was a Navy SEAL officer. They had no right to cause such chaos on the streets of Hawaii. But the detective's warnings were of no use. Leaving the station, the two brothers met with their cousin. The cousin had spoken to the architect and learned that the design was for a property on the northeast side of the island, owned by Rubbish Company. The owner of this company, Marcus Rubbish, is an influential white real estate businessman who has many hotels and resorts across Asia and Europe. But the cousin didn't think Marcus would work with a simple detective like Walter. However, James suddenly realized that Marcus didn't want to build a hotel there, but a casino. Yet casinos are completely prohibited in Hawaii. To uncover the truth, the two brothers decided to talk to Marcus. Coincidentally, tomorrow, Marcus is hosting his annual fundraising event, but only big donors can go there. However, Johnny has an idea for this. He realized why Walter had inserted Pika into the catering company. The next morning, having no car, the two brothers went to the construction site on the map by motorcycle. Arriving there, they saw it was an indigenous area. Although the people weren't rich, the area was quite lively. Soon, Johnny received a call from his cousin that the police had recovered a blue van from the ocean. Hearing the news, they quickly went there. The corpse found inside the car was Simi, a junior accountant from the governor's office. Seeing the police's attitude, it seemed they wanted to frame Simi as their father's killer. But the two brothers were not so easily fooled. They looked at the list of all registered blue vans on the island and asked Pika to investigate a Japanese company named Kobayashi Imports. Then, with Pika's help, the two brothers infiltrated the fundraising event disguised as waiters. Meanwhile, Pika received information that Kobayashi Imports was actually a company of the Japanese gang. This is normal because the Japanese gang has many legal businesses in Hawaii too. Johnny and James separated and started looking for information. Johnny introduced himself and spoke to Marcus's wife, Monica. It was revealed that Monica had hired Walter to spy on her husband in hopes of getting more money during the divorce. Thinking it wasn't safe to talk there, Monica asked Johnny to meet her at a hotel tomorrow. On the other hand, taking advantage of the Japanese gang leader's carelessness, James checked his ID card. While returning the card, James revealed his identity, but the gang leader wasn't scared. Instead, he warned James not to poke his nose in and left laughing. Then, Marcus's men forcibly took the two brothers to Marcus. Marcus knew they were Walter's sons. He explained very calmly that he had hired Walter to surveil his wife, suspecting adultery, but that was his misconception. Marcus said he had paid Walter every penny he was owed, so he had no connection to Walter's death, and he didn't want them to make trouble about this. But Johnny and James didn't believe him. After they left, Marcus smiled, holding a photo of his ex-wife. The next morning, when Johnny went to the hotel to meet Monica, he saw Monica was dead. Johnny couldn't accept Marcus's game of killing people. In a fit of rage, he went straight into Marcus's palace. But how could he alone manage against so many bodyguards? Soon, he was knocked to the ground with an electric shock. Marcus then stood before Johnny. Johnny shouted, "You killed your wife! You killed my father too!" But Marcus didn't care because no one would believe Johnny. Marcus himself called the police. Johnny was put in custody for illegal trespassing. Governor Maho came himself to bail Johnny out and made Marcus drop the charges. Maho advised Johnny to stay away from all this and told him to trust the police. Following Uncle Maho's advice, Johnny remained silent. Leaving the station, James was waiting outside, but Johnny ignored him. At one point during their argument, James said, "No matter how much you jump around, your mother won't come back." This statement poured ghee on the fire of Johnny's anger. The two brothers fought fiercely with each other in the rain. When they became tired and both were injured, they stopped. Johnny held resentment towards his brother about why he was sent away from Hawaii, but James had his own reasons. Mr. White's gang was very terrifying. There was no other way but to send Johnny away to save him. James had actually sent him away to protect his little brother. After so many years, the two brothers opened up about their feelings, and the distance between them began to decrease. A while later, Johnny's girlfriend called. She had been asked to check Johnny's mail. She found an envelope there sent from Hawaii. Inside the envelope was a USB drive. It was clear that the Japanese gang and others were desperate for this item. Johnny told his girlfriend to bring the item, but the girlfriend flatly refused to go to Hawaii. Johnny said he would send her a plane ticket and informed her that the matter was very important and dangerous. The girlfriend, who didn't want to come a while ago, appeared at Hawaii Airport in the next scene. The USB drive came into their hands. On the way back, Pika connected the drive to a computer and saw he couldn't hack it. Johnny's girlfriend recognized it immediately as a cold wallet, whose banking firewall is very strong. In simple words, whoever's account it is, money cannot be moved without this drive's permission. It required a password, or core words, consisting of 12 words. James immediately took out the receipt found in his father's belongings, which had exactly 12 words written on it. As Pika was typing the words, an unimaginable event occurred. Who could have thought that an armed helicopter would chase them to kill them? They only had a small pistol, with which it was impossible to combat a helicopter. In the moment of danger, the best driver, Johnny's girlfriend, took the steering wheel and pressed the accelerator. The car started speeding like a storm on the highway. While cursing, she kept swerving the car this and that and saved them from bullets by a hair's breadth several times. Somehow, they managed to get out of the ring of fire, but before they could feel relieved, a motorcycle chased them from behind. Johnny's girlfriend turned the car around and started driving in reverse. The motorcycle persistently stuck to them, and two killers forcibly entered the car. Their target was that USB drive. The two brothers started fighting the killers. Johnny and his girlfriend finished one off together, while James pinned the other one down and dragged him on the road until he went limp. Immediately after finishing these two killers, that helicopter returned. Johnny picked up a submachine gun dropped by the killers and made himself a target to attract the helicopter's attention. And James took the opportunity to shoot. But suddenly, they saw the uncontrolled helicopter crashing straight towards them. Everyone started screaming and running. Johnny's girlfriend courageously drove the car to survive the helicopter crash and sheltered inside a tunnel. When they were eating food in a safe place, Pika managed to access the account. It was seen that in the last 3 years, $12 million had entered this account. The money went through several offshore accounts and finally deposited into an account named Maho PD in the Cayman Islands. Johnny and James looked at each other. That means Governor Maho is involved in this. Analyzing everything, they came to a conclusion. Marcus wants to build a casino resort in Hawaii for which gambling or casinos need to be legalized. So he bought the governor with a $12 million bribe, and he hired the Japanese gang to do the dirty work. That accountant found dead in the sea, Simi, a junior accountant from the governor's office, probably wanted to leak this corruption and downloaded the proof and gave it to Walter, but they got caught, resulting in both Simi and Walter being killed. Realizing the situation was serious, James quickly went home, but upon arrival, he saw the Japanese gang had kidnapped his wife and sister. The very next moment, Marcus called James and told him to hand over the USB drive to get the hostages back. But the two brothers were not ones to compromise. James opened his personal armory and took everything possible. Then, in the dark of night, they raided straight into Marcus's palace. First, they silently removed the outer guards. When communication with the guards was lost, suddenly the basement lights went out and emergency lights went on. Marcus sent the head of the guards to check. It was seen that the electric wires had been cut. Marcus sent all his Japanese gang members to kill the two brothers. Soon, a face-to-face clash broke out. After a fierce battle, the two brothers reached the basement and rescued the wife and sister. But they saw Marcus preparing to flee on a yacht. Johnny chased him without delay. After Marcus threw away his pistol, a hand-to-hand fight started between them. On the other hand, the Japanese gang leader stopped James. When they ran out of bullets, they started fighting with swords. James finally used his skill to thrust the sword into the gang leader's chest, killing him. Then James ran quickly towards the dock, but it was too late. Johnny lost to Marcus. As Marcus was about to shoot Johnny, Johnny pulled the pin of a grenade. James screamed Johnny's name and jumped into the water without hesitation. He somehow dragged the unconscious Johnny to the shore. Luckily, Johnny survived. Afterward, the police arrested Governor Maho. When Mr. White learned that Johnny had protected the local community, he made a truce with Johnny and revealed that his mother's real killer was not his man, and even told him the killer's name. After that, Johnny started a new life in Hawaii with his brother. The story ends here. Thank you everyone for watching until the end. Like and comment on the video and keep the channel subscribed. See you in another new video. Thank you everyone.